Hey guys, and welcome back to the shop. If you're new here, I am the convicted Christian. I am 7 years clean and sober. I did 10 years, almost 10 years in prison, and now I am free and off parole, all thanks to God's love for me. Those of you that are returning viewers know that even though it's not Wednesday anymore, it is What I Learned Wednesday. And if you're wondering, yes, I do have a new project up on the lathe. This one was not recorded, but I will make sure that I get pictures when it's done. And you can see what I'm working on. It's pretty cool, and hopefully it turns out. So, last Monday, I talked about my first release from prison up until going back to prison. And like I said, in that video, there's not a lot I remember, so this might be a pretty short video. Short for me. In the immediate time, I didn't learn not one thing. Not one thing. I didn't learn anything about my relationship with my then girlfriend and first wife. I didn't learn anything about my time when I was at the halfway house. I was too caught up in using, drinking, and doing whatever I could to have as little responsibility as I could so that I could live my life. Which wasn't really living, even though I thought it was. I thought that living off of other people's dimes and staying in their houses, sleeping on their couches, was life. And I can't believe that I had ever at one point thought that. One thing that I definitely learned was that when I was younger, I had very much of a victim mentality. I believed with all of my heart that I was doing right, everyone else was doing wrong, and I was just trying to live my life. My peel was on my back for no reason, and I couldn't understand why. Here's the thing. I wasn't checking in like I was supposed to. I wasn't filling out my forms like I was supposed to. When I would check in, I was almost always late. I just didn't care. I wanted to do it my way. And no one was going to tell me otherwise. From that first time being released really inspired the step 2 of my 5 steps of staying out of prison. You know, because you've got accountability and then responsibility. Being responsible, I'm not going to say it's key to staying out, but I mean, it's as close as it can be to key to staying out as anything else is. Because when you're responsible, you're going to do the right thing. Remember, accountability, step 1, is about things that you've already done. Responsibility are things that you need to do and keep doing. And so for me, I had to learn how to be responsible even when I didn't want to be. Because it's all well and good if you want to be responsible, because it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice, which everybody makes sacrifice. If you're a wife, if you're a husband, if you're a child, if you're an elderly person, if you're a prison guard, a prisoner, a PO, or a parolee. We all make sacrifices. We all do. You can't get around it. You can't get away from it. And no matter how hard you try, it's always going to be there. Always. And until we can remember to keep that in mind, it's always going to be like that. Always. So being able to take pride in your responsibilities, in your ability to fulfill your responsibilities, makes it a little less of a sacrifice. And so, by me not being responsible and seeing the outcome, it definitely led to me adding the responsibility part to my 5 steps, as well as just wanting to be more responsible. And it's crazy. I don't know if it's the man in me. I don't know if it's the husband in me or the father or what it is. But as I get older, I want more responsibility. Call me crazy. And, maybe it's because I jerked off my whole entire 20s. And now that I'm in my mid to potentially late 30s, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So I don't believe that in a lot of settings I'm taken seriously, or that there's any belief in my abilities, in my skills and my talents and stuff like that. And yes, I do this, but this is a hobby. I don't do this for money. I don't do my leather work for money. It's a hobby. And so if people go, oh man, so-and-so can do better, cool, they can do better. That's my hobby. I'm not invested in that. But the things that I need to be responsible in, my faith, my job, my marriage. Sometimes, you get sideways glances like, oh man, you should be further along than you are now. Yeah, I should be. And I'm working towards that. And I'm trying to play catch up. But sometimes playing catch up takes time. And in that time frame, I'm impatient. You should see me today. I came in, I don't know what was going on with me today, but boy howdy, was I full of energy. Like, I was just, I didn't know what was going on. I had so much energy, and my wife didn't know what was going on either. She had to ask me if I was doing okay. And so I'm very much one of those guys that I get impatient when things aren't going at the pace that I want them to, which I need to learn to stop. And and that's part of the persevering part that I need to work on. But through my first release and the time until my next incarceration, no responsibility was learned. None. It took me years to learn that after. Something else that I learned in this time frame is, and I might have mentioned this in another video, I've got quite a few videos, and I don't write anything down, so if I repeat myself, I apologize. But if I'm repeating myself, it must be important to me. And maybe it's important to you. Not everybody that you want in your life should be in your life. And that was my ex-wife. Had we met at a different time in our journeys, had we met at a different time in our faith, had we met at a different time, maybe things would have turned out differently. But at this time in our life, we were not right for each other. Because what we were struggling with individually did not whatsoever give us grace and the ability to handle each other in a healthy, positive manner. And because of that, we shouldn't have been together. We should have been more focused on what we needed to be focused on and less about what we thought we wanted at the time. And so, definitely hard lesson to learn. Definitely a lesson that, once learned, I'm very grateful. Kind of wish I would have learned it sooner. Of course, there's the obligatory message of, oh man, I really wish I wouldn't have used drugs and alcohol. And I still was able to learn something in that time frame. When I first got into recovery and became sober, I wanted to delete everything that had to do with drugs and alcohol in my life, including people and places. And something that I learned within the last probably 6 or 7 years that dealt with this time in my life was that you can care about the people without having to partake in the festivities. And you can make sure that they're safe and protected without partaking in the festivities as well. And so, even though that I'm in recovery, my wife is not. And every now and again, she wants to go and have a drink. And she wants to go and enjoy being in like a bar setting or go somewhere where there's drinking is more acceptable. And instead of being so hung up on myself and my recovery and how it's going to affect me, I'm more worried now about her being protected. And as much as the few friends that she has, I trust them, they're not me. And I want to make sure she's protected. So I'm willing to go with her. Not to keep an eye on her, not to, make sure that she's doing the right thing, but I honestly just want to make sure she's protected because there's things that I see that she's probably not going to see. There was a funny video we saw the other day of a lady, and she's all like, "What I think about when I'm with my boyfriend compared to what my boyfriend thinks about." And so there's a shot of the boyfriend, and he's like, "Okay, there's a guy on the left, and there's another guy on the right, and we got to keep an eye on both those guys, and the door's over there," and it just kind of kept going, very tactical. And they panned to the girl or the lady, and she's singing like an Adele song in her head, supposedly. And that's how it kind of feels, because when my wife wants to get out and, be with some friends and have a drink or two and just unwind, she's not thinking about that stuff. And so I want to be there to protect her. And in this part of my life, I noticed that no matter if people are drug addicts, no matter if they're alcoholics, no matter if they're both, or whatever their hang up is, whatever their issue is, they're still good people. They're still worth getting to know and being willing to protect them if they need protecting. Being willing to be there when they need you, despite the condition and location that they are. And I'm so glad that I learned that because when I first got in recovery, I had to let go of so many friendships. And I had to, and the way I let them go was not the right way, and I burned a lot of bridges. I mean, we're talking a lot of bridges. Because I didn't feel like I could handle being friends with someone that was still drinking, even socially. Or using, even if it was medicinally, or a way to get help with mental issues. I didn't think I could handle that. And now I know that I don't have to partake to make sure that my friend is good. To make sure my friend is safe. And still just be friends with them. The last thing I learned is, and this is going to be, a really easy one. I don't like people coming into my personal spaces. As extroverted as I am, as much as I enjoy talking, as you can tell by the 70 whatever videos I have on here despite having a small channel, unwanted advances into my personal space definitely puts me in a defensive mode. And there are times when I don't want that. I don't want you near me. I don't want you by me. I want to be by a very select few people, and the majority of the time, that's going to be my wife and kids. At the time, I didn't have wife and kids. But being at the halfway house, and a sheriff can just walk in, no matter what you're doing. You could be wiping your butt, you could be taking a shower, you could be getting dressed, whatever the case may be. They can just walk in and make sure you're there, because you're supposed to be there. Learning where my personal space is made it so that I'm more willing to stand up for myself and what I'm comfortable with. Whereas before, even if I felt uncomfortable, I didn't want to be the bad guy and tell someone to, back off. So learn your personal space. Learn what makes you comfortable and uncomfortable. And don't compromise on that unless you can tell that it's done with good intentions. You're going to be growing from the experience, and it's with someone that you truly trust. Anything outside of those three scenarios, stick up for yourself. Stand up. Don't be afraid to talk. Because when you're afraid to talk, you will be led down roads that you may not want to go. So, that was it. Not a very long one. Not like usual. Don't remember a lot. Those were kind of the main things that I remembered and what I learned. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for all the support. I really hope to continue seeing you guys come on the channel. I've got a steady stream of regular viewers. Thank you. I really hope that you're gaining something from this, because I know I am. I've never really went back and thought about all these situations and times and what I learned from them. And so, as much as you guys are getting something, I'm also getting something by just making these. I'm my own therapist, kind of. And it's been nice. Always remember, if we're going to change the world, we have to remember things so we can change ourselves. Have a good night. I'll see you Friday.